Hi folks, John Fennell here again from Great Lakes Fly Shop, and today we are going to be tying the Don't Fear the Ripper crayfish pattern. And I do them in three colors. I do them in a tan, natural color, which I'm hearing is pretty awesome for saltwater. I do them in an orange, and I do them also in an olive color. I know this isn't the best way to view them, but I also have the option in some cases where I'm actually weighting the fly. If you notice, this one has a dumbbell eye on it on the back. And on this tan one, I don't put weights on it because I use it with a sink tip, so it's kind of overkill. Unless you really need it to start getting down deep, I don't normally weight them. I use a sink tip line when I'm fishing crayfish patterns. Get a little bit better control, I think. So the products that we'll be using for this crayfish pattern will be, first of all, I like to use the B10S Gamakatsu size 2 hook for this pattern. And the most important part is the eyeballs. I use a pretty heavy duty monofilament. This is an old spool of musky mono from Cortland. I don't think they make it anymore, but if you can find it, get it. But what I do is I actually melt the eyes down. I'm not going to do it in this video because it would take quite a bit of time. But what I do is I do melt them down and make individual eyeballs out of them. As you can see there against my beard, that they do come out pretty good. I do a whole bunch of them at one time, so it actually works out pretty nice. So the other items will be moose mane I use for the feelers on a crayfish. I do get this from a taxidermist, so he does give me quite a few strips of moose hide. So I use that quite a bit. Inside the feelers also, I'll put in a bit of crystal flash, and again, if it's orange or olive, you would use the appropriate color for that. In this case, I'm going to be doing the natural color crayfish, and I'm using the pearl color crystal flash. The body color is a tan Estes or tan cactus chenille, whatever you can get a hold of. I carry this in a tan Estes in standard size, so just bear that in mind. This is standard size. The shell back, the cover, is Swiss straw, and I use it in a brown color. You can also use a cream color, which works pretty good too, but I like brown as a shell cover. And then I use for the flippers or the back fin, I use grizzly tan colored marabou, little mini marabou, and it works really nice, has a lot of good colors to it and stuff. So anyway, I really like this stuff. And then I also use for the pinchers, I use rabbit strip and grizzly. And that comes out pretty good. And ribbing, I use standard gold ribbing in brassy size. Yeah, I like that size, brassy. You could go up to medium, but I tend to like brassy a little bit better. So let's see. Let's get started. All right. Okay, for the color of the thread, I use tan and just regular 6/0 thread. I normally like to use 210, but you know, it could be the tier's preference, whatever you like. I mean, I don't generally need to use a super heavy duty thread for this fly. So I generally just like to use tan 6/0 thread, uni thread, or Danville products. So what I do is on this B10S stinger hook from Gamakatsu, I go all the way down the bend because of course you want crayfish to have a natural curve to it. When they do swim, they actually do cock their bodies and give a nice burst of speed to get out of harm's way. But I've used the crayfish pattern for quite a while and I've done real well with it. We have determined that up in northern Minnesota, when we catch our smallmouth, that most of the crayfish, most of the smallmouth that we do bring to the boat, they spit up these natural color or these tan color pieces of crayfish or pieces of minnow, and they're all tan color. They're natural colors. They're not bright orange or they're not olive. So in some cases, we find that the natural works a little bit better. So without the dumbbell weight on the back, and the reason that you might want to put a dumbbell eye on the back is right about here. What it does is it flips the hook over, so if you're fishing it, it doesn't snag up as much. But I tend to find that that doesn't really be the case. If you're using a sink tip line, you just throw it up against the shore and it works pretty sweet. You don't have any hang-ups. So I kind of sometimes don't like to put dumbbell eyes on it. Again, I like to use a lot of flash. People that know me know I'm pretty crazy about flash. I like to use a lot of that. And again, this is crystal flash, pearl color, using pearl. And just place this on top. Okay, when I use the Swiss straw as a shell cover, I actually take the Swiss straw and feather it out so it's flattened out kind of, so you see more of the wider opening of the product. Anyway, I just lay that up on top. And I always wind the thread right up to where the last product was secured, so you don't have any gaps in there, so you want it nice and snug. So just bear in mind that I do have a full-time shop, so if there's some disturbances, you do hear the phone ring. I am the only person working the shop, so anyway, sorry about that little bit of inconvenience there. So what I do is I take a good bulk size. I use a lot of this Aztez, so in most cases you'll just buy smaller packs of this. And again, this is 10 Aztez. And right after I put on the shell cover, the Swiss straw, I place on the Aztez. And again, this is Don't Fear the Ripper crayfish pattern. When you're doing Aztez or any cactus chenille product, just make sure you comb it back with every wrap. And that way you get a nice you know, they're not all bunched up. Putting on the monofilament eyes. Again, I do make my own monofilament eyes. You can buy saltwater crab eyes, but they're pretty expensive. So I just make my own. I just melt, you know, 20-pound or 30-pound monofilament in a darker color. Chameleon works really good from Maxima. That's a really good color also. So. And again, if you have any questions about tying this fly, please feel free to call me up, Great Lakes Fly Shop, 218-740-3040. So then after I put on the eyes, I make 2 more wraps of Estes. And again, you want them to be fairly close to one another. They don't have to be right up against each other, but fairly close. Estes does cover a lot of the hook. Next, I place the pinchers on the crayfish pattern, and again I use grizzly, and what I do is that they're coming a long strip, but what I do is I cut them in little chunks, nice little chunks, and I mount them on each side of the hook. So one side on this side, another side on this side. So it gives you that pincher look. I like using rabbit strip. Some people like to use hackle because it's a little bit lighter. The downside that you'll find when working with rabbit strip is it is fairly messy, so you should have a little bit of water nearby so you can coat your fingers and comb it back and get all that fuzz out of the way. Next, I like to put on legs. And what I use for legs, you know, you can use silly legs in a tan color. I like to use the grizzly color in this stuff right here. Grizzly barred rubber legs. I like to use this in tan or in a natural color. I really like what it does for the crayfish. But you can use other different types of rubber legs also, as long as it comes close to matching the color. And what I do is I wrap them around the hook. I do 3 on each side, okay? Three sets on each side, again, on each side of the hook. And I bring the thread toward the eye a little bit. And then I make 2 more wraps in between the legs. Now, you could pretty much decide how long you need your legs to be. Sometimes I like them long, sometimes I like them short. I do 2 wraps in between the legs, and then I do 2 wraps behind the legs to kind of get them a certain shape. You know, you want the legs to splay out pretty nice. And then secure it. Again, I have not cut the Estes. I do leave it on. And then next what I do is I add the wire. Okay. And again, I cut these in little strips also. Again, it is brassy size in gold. And I cut those also in little strips. Now I place that on the hook, again on the side. And again, please, if you got any questions on how to tie this, either call me at the shop or leave a comment below my video, and I'll be more than happy to answer questions that you may have. So if you just noticed, I bring I guess it's the carapace or the shell cover, I bring that over now, and then I secure it because you have done the forward part of the crayfish, right? So what I do after that is I bend back the carapace a little bit and now work on the back tail area or the back rear body area. So I do have the wire secured, and now I bring the thread up to the eye. Adjust the hook a little bit, make it easier for wrapping. And then I bring the Estes back to the eye. I just wrap it. And as I'm wrapping, again, like I mentioned before, you want to comb Estes back. So you just take your fingers and comb it back. Do you see how I'm doing that? I'm just combing it back. Again, this is a tan color. I do them in orange, hot orange, and I also do them in olive. I have found some of the people in saltwater who go after redfish say that this color, this natural color, works pretty nice with redfish. I have not tried it, but I take their word for it. So once I wrap my Estes back to a certain part, I stop, and then I just secure it with the thread. And this is why you don't really need super heavy duty thread. You can if you'd like. If you like using 210 denier type thread, some heavier duty thread, the options are totally yours. But what I've done so far is I put the pinchers on, the feelers, the flash above the feelers. I've got my rubber legs on there, and now I'm going to take my case, my shell case or the carapace, and throw it over the top like that. Now, I cut it a little bit long beyond the eye, and the reason I do that is because this is the actual back fin, you know, so you want that little bit of action back there. Now I take my wire and I place that in between as a type of ribbing. Again, your spacing with the wire ribbing should be pretty close to natural. You want to kind of look at what your spacing is. In this case, I got a little too short of wire, but what I do is when I got too short of a wire, I just hold my finger on it like that, and then just secure it. Secure it back where you did the fin. So now you have that segmented look on your back body area of the crayfish. And then I just use little fingernail clippers. Last on this product, before I secure it, is I take the Grizzly Marabou, Mini Marabou Tan, and I find the fluffiest one, the one that's nice. It's got a nice full color, full shape to it. I dump the whole bag down on a table because trying to search for it is pretty tough. So I found a piece that's nice. It's got a good fluffiness to it. And underneath, I place this underneath the crayfish pattern and secure it right below the back fin there. Now, You can catch rainbows with this also. I've hooked rainbows on the Brule River in Wisconsin with it. So it is a pretty sharp pattern. It's multi-use. It is a crayfish. And up here in the Northland of Minnesota, crayfish, next to minnows or any kind of bait fish, crayfish is the number 2 go-to bait for a lot of our smallmouth, our trout. So the crayfish pattern is totally underutilized, but it's highly effective, okay, because it's a lot of meal, and there's lots and lots of crayfish in the rivers and in some lakes. So after I get my marabou on there, and that just enhances my back fin area there a little bit, I secure it. And there you go, folks. That is the Don't Fear the Ripper crayfish pattern. And again, you can do it in different sizes. You can also do it in different colors. Again, I do mine in a natural tan, and then I also do it in a hot orange. And then I also do it in a olive color also. So anyway, the options are yours. Again, enjoyed having you with me. And again, give me a call, 218-740-3040, or go onto my webpage at Great Lakes Flies, FLYS.com. Check things out. If you got any questions, give me a call, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.